Not all commanders are created equal. While you're playing what you believe to be honest, fair, good faith magic, your opponent is sitting across from you printing mana with Vivi or Nidier and eating the table's life totals. As you're watching this play out, it may be tempting to complain about how this is the worst deck to play against ever. While true, waiting for a non-deterministic storm turn to finish taking game actions is a drag, the worst? I'm not so sure. The players of the past had their own demons too. Back in the day, there was a huge gulf in power between the fair, honest decks and the format's boogeymen. The things on this end of the spectrum could easily pub stomp an unaware pod with little effort. You may rightly ask then, if those commanders were so big and bad, where are they now? And that, my friend, is the question. Today, I want to talk about some of these cards, and discuss the reasons why nobody plays these commanders anymore. But first, are you looking for something to give your Magic deck some flair? Well, look no further. Today's video is sponsored by voidmonster.org. Voidmonster is an online store started by MTG artist Forrest Immel, the incredible talent behind some of my favorite arts in Magic. It features TCG-inspired accessories and apparel to help you and your decks come to game night looking great. Each month, they host a new release of exclusive content with a week-long pre-order period. This month is the release of the Nick Donalds drop, because who needs subtlety? It features both the Play Plain playmat and an incredibly inspired deck box design, with some familiar and beloved characters inside. Pre-orders for the drop go from today until August 30th at 12 PM Pacific Standard Time, so don't wait. Use my link in the description and head to voidmonster.org right now to grab one for yourself. Your playgroup is going to love it, and thank you to Voidmonster for sponsoring the video. Believe it or not, there used to be a time where you would say the words Meren of Clan Nel Toth, and the table would shudder. No contest, this was the premier graveyard commander. For 4 mana, she'd farm you experience counters when she saw your other creatures die. Then, on your end step, she reanimates a creature with mana value equal to or less than the number of experience counters you had. If you don't have enough experience counters, it goes to your hand instead. This means, even with no further investment, she'd bring back your huge boss monsters after they ate a removal spell, and your enters the battlefield creatures to get reusable value. How is that not enough for the modern day? It mostly comes down to pace and grindability. When the format was routinely going well into turns 12 and 14, the setup required to get a graveyard deck going was just par for the course for Commander. Getting your separate mill, fodder, sacrifice outlets, and other engines in place was very doable when the token strategy was slowly building up lethal over the course of a very telegraphed 8 turns. Now he does it in 2. Every strategy has gotten faster, and so now, graveyard decks have been split into 2 categories. The decks that have kept up and accelerated with the format, versus the ones that lean into snowballing late game. For an accelerated deck, you need your commander to do a lot of work at an undercosted rate. Looking at you, Tevel. He has built-in mill, recurs your lands, and token generates for blockers and sack fodder, all right from the get-go for 4 mana. You get off to the races startlingly fast. Most other graveyard decks are going to lean into the slower snowball strategy, playing a defensive early game while you're vulnerable, and then reviving many creatures a turn if you survive into the late game. This is the realm of Muldrotha. The later the game goes, the more mana and options she has to resurrect multiple pieces, that then spiral out into grabbing more. She's a cascading avalanche of graveyard shenanigans. Meren will only ever be able to grab one at a time. It's free, sure, but it's also slow and doesn't have the ability to use resources to go faster. Meren needs a decent amount of setup, which keeps her out of Camp A, and doesn't snowball hard enough to fit into Camp B. She still sees some amount of play, but doesn't wear the same crown she used to. Now that the state-mandated power creep example is out of the way, let's talk about someone whose fall is a bit weirder. Brago, King Eternal. He's 4 mana, has flying, and when he deals combat damage, he gives you the ability to flicker your entire board. All of your enters and leaves the battlefield triggers, which are designed to be one-time use, are now repeatable engines in and of themselves. Brago's been the king of the Blink deck ever since he was printed, which was, 2014. And that's sort of the issue here. The fact that Brago is still probably the best Blink commander out there might sound like a compliment, but it's saying more about Blink as an archetype than it is about him as a card. Azorius Blink is a strategy that has been left, at least in Commander, largely in the lurch. You may be raising an eyebrow at this. Blardist, we've received tons of support for Blink. What are you talking about? Okay, let's go over some of them. Guy who blinks things, girl who blinks things, dog who blinks things, rock that blinks things, girl who doubles blinks, and monster that makes blinks blink more. You will notice, throughout listing out some of the biggest pieces of support we've received for this archetype, I did not once mention big thing that wants to be blinked. Just look at the EDH rec pages. Cloudblazer, Reflector Mage, Archaeomancer. Some of the best targets to blink here are the biggest hits of 2016. Were they printed today, these would probably be one or several mana cheaper, and there haven't been many huge bombs to take their place. The blinks get better, but the targets stay the same. This is where being an Azorius really hurts us. Look, here's something that wins us the game if we blink it a bunch. Oh, wait, it's out of our colors. Oh, here's some things that pack a ton of value into each blink. Oh wait, they're out of our colors. The best new toys don't have the capacity to be played in Brago. This leads into the strategy's pacing issues. Blink has a pretty fast mid-game. After a bit of setup, your cards are now all engines, which means farming resources can be done fairly easily. Then you keep making resources, and keep making them, never actually finishing off the game. This is such a huge issue with the strategy that Azorius Blink has garnered a reputation about it, that it takes a ton of game actions, draws a billion cards, makes a bunch of mana, spawns a bunch of tokens, and then just passes, sitting on a mountain of resources that any other strategy could easily convert into a win. It garners a social faux pas for getting into the monopolizing time issue that Storm and Spellslinger decks are known for, but even worse because at least those strategies can easily end the game. For both its strategic and social issues, Brago comes up a bit short. Another all-timer fallen from grace is Narset Enlightened Master. She's a 6 mana 3/2 with First Strike and Hexproof. Whenever she attacks, she flips the top 4 cards of your library, and until the end of your turn, you can cast any non-creatures among them for free. She was the headliner of the ye old cheat stuff into play wave, alongside other format classics like Mayel the Anima and Intet the Dreamer. Narset was notorious for getting out of hand practically immediately. 6 mana was only slightly higher than average back in the day. During this relatively slow time for Commander, she would regularly attack and flip into game-changing cards turn after turn, while Hexproof ensured nobody could do anything to stop her. So what went wrong? For one thing, design restraint. When exactly is up for debate, but at some point after printing cards like Expropriate and Time Stretch, Wizards of the Coast realized any mana cost above 7 is purely for show. Cheating cards into play is commonplace, and so a 15 mana Eldrazi is often just as castable as a 7 mana Dinosaur. This means that higher mana costs need to have diminishing returns for power per mana. Check out some of the new, huge non-creatures we've been getting recently. Not bad, but certainly nowhere near Expropriate. As time went on, and Narset's 6 mana became more of a liability, she needed a lot of powerful new tools to stay relevant. Unfortunately for her, these never materialized. But Narset's issues aren't just mechanical. She's on the receiving end of a cultural shift as well. When Narset is functioning as intended, oftentimes she is chaining together strings of extra turn spells. This is, for all intents and purposes, a combo deck. The combo is to attack with Narset uninterrupted, and then flip into extra turn after extra turn until you manage to kill the board through attrition. However, this combo is by no means guaranteed, or even reliable. You need an open player to sustainably attack with Narset, nobody to use an edict to kill her, and even then, eventually, you will probably whiff on free casting an extra turn spell. This means, unlike lots of combos where you can simply demonstrate a loop and then declare a victory, Narset needs you to play it out. Here's where that cultural shift I was talking about earlier comes into play. The community hates this sort of play pattern. Long, drawn-out, uninteractive turns where one person plays Magic and the others just sit there are heavily stigmatized. It feels disrespectful to your playgroup's time, and when other more consistent combo decks can actually guarantee a win much faster, picking Narset is going out of your way to run up the turn timer. She's an all-or-nothing commander in a world where we want to be able to play the game even if we're not winning, and selfishly occupies most of the turn timer. Looking at it this way, I don't think it's surprising she's been shelved. Uril the Miststalker is the original Voltron Scourge. 5 mana gets you a creature that's already a hulking 5/5 with Hexproof. Then, he gets a 2/2 ongoing buff for each aura attached to him. If you've seen my video on Voltron strategies, you know why this is strong. A Voltron commander needs 4 things to be successful. damage, evasion, protection, and defense. You need to deal lethal damage in a timely manner, be able to punch through to make sure that your damage is hitting people reliably, ensure your commander isn't dying and thus resetting your progress, and have a plan of action for what happens when your tapped mega creature leaves you wide open to retaliation. Uril already comes with 2 of these out of the box, which means as long as you can get him through the line, he's going to be picking up kills. Seems pretty solid, so where does this go wrong? First of all, the mana cost. Every strategy wants cheap cards, obviously, but this goes double for Voltron. Voltron is an aggro strategy. It needs to get damage in before people can assemble blockers, pillow fort tactics, and start collecting removal. It's tough to get this in under the wire with a commander at 5 mana. This is made so much worse by the card type the strategy wants you to play, auras. Auras and equipment are the mainstays of Voltron. They allow you to easily make weenies into monsters, but there's a significant difference between the two. Equipment can sit on the battlefield and hang out before you have a creature to equip them to, while with auras, you have to already have a creature hanging out to use them. This means 5 mana is what you have to assemble before you begin your game plan. Then, next turn you can start piling auras on. You will have a lot of opening hands with nothing to cast until your commander's on the battlefield. This also makes him rather telegraphed. People will watch you resolve him, hold open removal on their turns, and then be prepared for your attack when your next combat rolls around. But Blardist, he's got hexproof, he's invincible. True, he's unable to be targeted, but that's already true of Voltron strategies anyways. Hexproof and indestructible are the best keywords for protecting your commander, and there are many auras and equipments willing to dole them out. Regardless of your commander, people are fishing for their edicts and cyclonic rifts as soon as they see the strategy. This means the bigger issue for auras crop up: multi-card losses. It's true that auras are generally cheaper than their equipment counterparts, but that's for good reason. If an enchanted creature leaves the battlefield, its auras all go to the graveyard. For a creature with 1 aura, this is a blowout, and quite a tempo loss. But Uril wants you to stack as many as possible onto him. A single board wipe or Riveteer's Charm is a monumentous disaster you may not recover from. This makes Uril an appetizing victim for non-targeted removal. Aura strategies can still compete with others, but look at their headliner, Lightpaws. They're cheap, have built-in card advantage, and that's through tutoring and putting those cards onto the battlefield for free. Losing Lightpaws isn't the end of the world, and they can always guarantee the pieces of the game plan arrive in the right order. Uril may have some strengths, but they're no Lightpaws. Alright, let's end on my favorite, Nekusar the Mindrazer. He's a 5 mana 2/4 with 2 lines of text. 1. On people's draw steps, they draw a second card, and 2. Your opponents each take a damage whenever they draw a card. Wait, this can't be right. Nekusar is 18th on EDH Rec. What do you mean he's fallen off? As evidenced by his EDH Rec page, a lot of people theorycraft with Nekusar, and maybe even put together a list. But have you noticed those decks don't stay together for long? For being this high on the board, he almost never shows up in the wild, and when he does, he hardly ever comes out of the deck box. I think this might be the reason why. Nekusar is without a real home. Between giving people cards and dealing damage for drawing them, he etches out 3 distinct archetypes. 1. Group Hug. Decks built around giving opponents resources. 2. Wheels. Decks that have you force everyone to draw many cards without actually providing card advantage. And 3. Group Slug. The archetype of punishing players for taking game actions by dealing damage to them. For a long time, Nekusar was the best at all of these jobs. Then, new designs began to rear their heads. Group Hug was the first to go. With Nekusar in your command zone, people know exactly what's coming, and no gift was without its taxes. It's a lot easier to lull your friends into a false sense of security with someone like Glunch or Miss Bumbleflower. In those decks, the player is in control of where the damage goes, letting you feign support much easier. Also, Group Hug just generally moved into the Selesnya color identity. For Wheels, people learned quickly that Nekusar was a kill on-site threat that could not be allowed to walk around without you holding up removal. In response to a wheel, people always attempt to kill him, especially since after that wheel resolves, the removal will be out of their hand anyways. And even if you're successful with him, the strategy is rather boring. He wheels a couple times, everyone takes a bunch of damage, dies, and the game is over. Then the third home, Group Slug. He held out here the longest, but this strategy never really needed blue in its colors. Valgavoth and Obnixilis, as well as a host of other decks, can put out more oppressive gradual damage while getting their own resources more explosively. They also don't reward their opponents with card draw every turn, which, by the way, is a real downside. For these reasons and more, Nekusar sees more deck lists than gameplay. Time has a tendency to keep marching on. It doesn't matter what the game looks like today, or how many Vivis and Jodas are running rampant around your LGS. A day will come where you will see your last of them, replaced by a newer, shinier set of toys. You'll be 5 years older, thinking about how insane it is that the new kids have never even heard of what used to plague your game nights. Maybe then I'll make another video about why nobody plays those commanders anymore. If you have a commander you think has fallen off, then please, share them down in the comments below. This list is far from comprehensive, of course, and I'd love to talk about the ones I've missed with you guys. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it or shared it with a friend. It's impossible to explain how much that helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the format of the video, then subscribe to the channel to get a heads up when I release more. I have a Discord where we get together to talk about how much we love Magic, and a Blue Sky where I complain about how much I hate it. And finally, again, don't forget to check out Void Monster's McDonald's drop. Please use the link below when you head over there. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.